How you do it? Alex, you open it.
Okay. So it's October 28th, 2021 at 7:01 p.m. and we're starting the Sykesville Parks and Recreation Commission meeting.
Somebody has to press got it.
Right. Got it.
All right, so the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the September minutes. I motion to approve the September 23rd meeting minutes.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think man has to abstain. Okay. All right, so there's only two things on the agenda, so this will be a shorter meeting. The first thing is the park cleanup at Jones Park. So we came up with this idea at the last meeting. I apologize, I kept meaning to send a follow-up email to get everybody on the same board figuring out if we want to do this. But Joe, have you talked to staff or anything about it?
We've talked a little bit about it. I think Jones Park's difficult because if we're going to use Beach Park as kind of the example, there's a lot of work that needs to be done at Jones Park. There's certainly no denying that. But in order to get equipment back there and mulch back there and clean up and do basically what we did at Beach Park, there's just not a lot of room to maneuver through there. So if we do the same thing we did at Beach Park, which we basically hired a contractor to do a lot of the pre-work, they would have to bring everything back there, including all of the mulch. And if they're already bringing it all the way back there, they might as well spread it too. So it's like, I'm not so sure that's a good volunteer park to get a bunch of volunteers to do all of that. I think absolutely in the spring or anytime between now and the spring, we need to do cleanup back there. But I think it's really just the town hiring a contractor and getting it all knocked out and taken care of. We did look at the swing set area there that's right off the linear trail there in Colorama. That could certainly use a little bit of spruce up too. I don't think it's nearly as much work as what we did at Beach Park, so I don't think it's going to take nearly as much time. But if we absolutely wanted to do something on November 6th, that's at least something we could do.
What about so we just went on the linear trail this past weekend, and what about like kind of cleaning up some of like tree branches and kind of just around the trail? Is something that can be do?
Yeah, because again, that's just having people show up and then walk the trail and push stuff back. So that's it.
Hey, and Joe, I wanted to ask about, okay, so the swing set area along linear that you were mentioning. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it in a while, but the roots are growing up through the mulch, and I would guess the only thing you could do there is kind of grind those down before you remulched it. They're sticking up 12 inches above the mulch.
Well, they've been ground down at least somewhat. If you move a little bit of the mulch out of the way, you can still see them there. So they're not sticking way up out of the ground anymore, but you can definitely still find them if you look.
Okay, is that something you would want to take care of before we remulched it?
Yeah, definitely.
And if we were still shooting for the 6th, is that something that could be done before that date?
Potentially.
Some later date.
No, I mean, again, I think we could, because again, it's just a matter of getting one piece of equipment down there and digging out a little bit around that tree. So I think we could probably still pull that off, even with the short turnaround.
And what about for Jones Park? I mean, one of the things desperately needed there, as you probably saw, was the repainting of that swing set. Is that something that's on the books?
Yeah, I think that would just be added to all the other improvements that need to happen there. The mulching is, I think, mulching, tree trimming, the painting of that equipment. I want to say there's a picnic table back there that looks, if not just as bad as the one over at Beach Park. Either that needs to be replaced or cleaned up quite a bit. There's a lot of things that can happen at Jones Park. I don't know if we want to like tackle fencing potentially.
So you're thinking springtime might be better for Jones and try to knock out linear trail maybe this fall.
Correct. I just think for a volunteer event, I think that's going to be a lot easier. I think Jones Park is going to require contractors.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. As far as like trying to recruit volunteers, I don't know if the notice has already gone out about a potential cleanup day, other than just us talking about it, or, okay. I don't know if Chris has been able to, did she say anything about that today? Okay.
Well, we talked about it. I just told her that I wasn't sure what we were gonna be able to put together
Yeah.
because we're coming down to the wire.
Right.
But I told her I would let her know what happened in the meeting tonight.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because it's, okay, so you have volunteers.
Again, it ends up just being us.
The other thing with the linear trail is a lot of the equipment needs work.
Well, that-
It needs repairs.
That's-
The one is like completely overgrown with.
Well, no, all of that equipment along the linear trail is actually waiting for so actually, that might be done this week.
Yeah, I told you guys about the grant, remember, that we got
So
for the improvements to the trail, and they were gonna remove
there was
the
trail
equipment.
repair work that was being done off of Brandon, basically where you get on the trail at Brandenburg Circle. There's a section there that had been washed out pretty bad. So that was getting completely redone. They were supposed to start Monday. I don't see what I didn't even look. See if they're there. That was a project Jared was running. So we received roughly $80,000 in a Project Open Space grant. That work itself was going to be in the 50 to 60 range, and anything we had left was going to go into rehabbing that equipment, either tearing it out and putting new stuff in, or just tearing it out.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of still having like kind of a fitness
Right.
trail
Yeah.
aspect
Sure.
to it, but yeah, the stuff that's out there now, some of it's overgrown, some of it's damaged.
So action items for the park cleanup then is I will start advertising for that. And then Joe, if you can coordinate with whoever we need to. And we'll I guess have to have some more emails internally. Like, I don't know what kind of tools we need and all that stuff.
Just pushing branches back. You can ask for like those little trimmers, those little clippers that move them. And again, it's like, you don't have to go up too high, so if you can reach it, you can come.
We can get the gloves that we have already.
Okay, so then the last thing on our agenda is to discuss Santa's arrival. I don't really have any background information yet. Is this a downtown Sykesville connection?
It's not.
No,
No,
it's
Santa's arrival is, well, I guess I wasn't around for how all that happened either, but I was under the impression that this was going to be a town event or spark event if we wanted it to happen.
Okay.
There's coordination that obviously has to happen with obviously Mr. Claus and the fire company, and then the railroad group. But I guess we wanted to get direction from Spark to see if this is really an event that we want to do, and then staff can get going on making some of those coordinating efforts.
I forgot that we discussed decorating the float,
No.
Christmas Eve.
We're gonna,
Are we talking about that?
Yeah. That would be cool.
So when I talked to Chris today, the one thing she said was if different members of the group wanted to volunteer to be the different Christmas characters that we have, she said she would be Mrs. Claus. And then she went through and said there's 2 elves, Frosty, Grinch, and Sparky if we wanted him to attend. She said Frosty's the most popular. And she said to make sure somebody volunteered to do Frosty.
And
Those
a buddy of mine, Dimitri, has traditionally been the Grinch, and I'm sure he would love to continue to do that.
So I think it was 2 Christmases ago we did it, right? We didn't do it last.
yeah, we got
Right.
And it was, I think, just you and me doing it, right?
I don't remember that at all.
I know I was doing
You
it.
did a craft across the street from the
Yeah, we
post
did
office.
like church. Yeah, church helped with a craft, like we do
Yeah.
with movie nights, which we didn't. I don't know if it's stealing, if it's free, but you go to Home Depot and get the paint cards. We just kept going there and taking more and more of those. They're free. I don't know, 1,000 are free, but and we made Christmas trees out of it. We still have probably a lot left. So we can always do that again. But I do remember we dressed up. I think you were there, Nick.
I dressed up.
You and me dressed up, and people definitely came over for that. But I do remember it being cold, so a lot of people didn't want to do a craft because it was cold. I do have like those propane heaters at my house. If we want to use those, we can use them. But it's easy to do, and I'm willing to help, and especially if we can do a craft like we did last time too. But if anybody wants to do it,
Oh, Lord.
What's the date of the event?
It would be,
yeah,
if we get it all organized, it's the first Saturday of December.
we're Saturday tonight.
And just, it's sometimes hard to hear you guys. Are you saying that it's not yet been organized for Santa's arrival?
No, it has not.
I mean, and it's never been organized by Spark. I mean, it's always been the town or Main Street or Downtown Sykesville Connection or whatever they were at the time.
Who?
I mean, for the 35 years I've been here.
that was the department, the economic, whatever that position was, that was Julie's before it was, they just broke off into the DSC. So when it was Ivy and when it was Stephen, I think they were the ones that organized that event.
Right, so
Then when Julie broke away from the town, it kind of got left without a
home.
yes.
Definitely still
And
there.
Now,
prior
Spark
to
participated-
Main Street, it was,
Spark
prior to Main
participated-
Street. Go ahead.
Spark participated in the event, but they weren't the organizers of the event.
Yeah, 2 years ago we definitely didn't know. We just had a table.
Yeah, prior to Main Street taking over, it started out as a town, and then Main Street was formed, the Ivy group, and they ran it. But it was in coordination with the Patapsco, what do they call it? Patapsco, Sykesville and Patapsco Train Organization.
Yeah.
So
So they are doing it. Like we're the ones running it now. Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
we're asking you.
We're asking.
Oh yeah. But like, so because last time it was just like we're just gonna jump in on what they're already doing. So if we want to do it, we have to. Oh, okay.
Does anybody have Santa's phone number?
We
Yeah,
can coordinate that. That's. But again,
How
we
would
want to make sure
our-
the event has a home.
Yeah.
how would Spark organize, the coordination of the fire department, Santa? It's a Maryland State road, all of that piece. That's why it was always done at a different level outside of our committee or commission members. Is that not something that the town can take up and run with, coordinating?
Well, I think there's just, here, Billy, there's just maybe a slight misunderstanding. With just about every event, outside of maybe the movie, there's always some coordination with staff on events. And that's not out of the realm of possibility even with this one. And there would clearly be some coordination with staff to make sure that road closures can happen, certain phone calls get made, but we want to make sure that there's at least a group of volunteers that are also running the event itself, and that it doesn't all just fall on staff. That makes sense.
Is S&P no longer involved at all?
They haven't reached out to the town at all to try to coordinate anything on this. If we weren't going to have an event, which is, again, is why we're talking about it tonight, the town can facilitate that conversation to make sure that happens and to make sure they still want to be involved in it.
And Downtown Sykesville Connection doesn't.
They're not going to.
They don't want to
No.
play a part in it at all.
Because there's already a merchant event for like the 12 hours of Christmas. I believe it's that Friday.
Yeah, and they canceled their Merry Main Street. So
And that usually happens at town hall.
it usually happens the same day as Santa's arrival.
Right. Gotcha. Again, that was mainly because it was an indoor event and they didn't have volunteers that wanted to participate.
I mean, is this because of COVID or some other
Yes.
reason?
That's why the Merry Main Street was canceled, yes.
I see.
mean, I think we all
Well-
want to do it, right? Like, it seems like, okay. So, yeah, whatever needs to be done, we can do it.
If Spark's willing to own it, then we'll make sure it happens.
And we talk, I mean, and Billy, remember you said in the past we used to like play like Charlie Brown Christmas or something, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, we did that for years. You know, we set up the movie screen alongside you know, the caboose where Santa would meet the kids. You know, we had the characters and the whole bit. That hadn't happened for a few years though, because I think SMP, who was coordinating the event at the time, saw that as some conflict of with what they were doing.
Gotcha.
Just put it that way. So, yeah, it was really successful actually, because the kids would line up in that long line for Santa, and we'd have a movie playing in the background, you know, Charlie Brown or Frosty, or you know, one of those type of animated movies, and the kids would just line up. We have little carpet squares. They sit and watch the movie as their parents stand in line, you know, drinking their coffee and hot chocolate, waiting for their turn. It was really a cool event. But
It's interesting you bring up the carpet squares, because there's a stack of them in the basement that Jano and I were trying to figure out what the heck they were being.
I knew they were. You didn't know what they were. I told you what they were.
that was it. Yep.
Well, we're still hoping that they'll help with it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So they might not want to do the screen, but
So we'll start those conversations and make sure
My
that.
understanding from them in the last few years, they still wanted Santa to come to the train car and have people come through, but they didn't want to do any planning.
gotcha.
They just wanted to provide the
Santa.
location for Santa to come and sit down.
Oh, they just want to provide the location. That's it.
Yeah.
So then, if that's true, then we can kind of do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do whatever we want.
Exactly.
All right, let's do it.
Does that mean we don't have access to the train cars and stuff? Or like who
No, we will.
who had?
Well, I mean, the inside is them, but whatever happens on the outside, I imagine they can do what they want, right?
So we can't go inside because all the.
Well, that's where
Well,
Santa.
That's what I'm saying.
I know that it's their biggest. You know, they work off of donations, and I know they have their model trains in there. It's pretty important to them. That's why it worked out well that if Santa was in the caboose, folks would first walk through the other train car, and you know, look at the model trains, and then make their way in line. So I know that they would probably they'd probably work with us in some capacity if we were considering you know, working with them, making it happen. They would probably really want Santa in the caboose, and it's a nice, I think, somewhat comfortable place for Santa and Mrs. Claus to be, instead of sitting out in the cold.
All right.
Do they normally hand out like hot chocolate and stuff?
I think they normally do hot chocolate.
But they won't. Well, if they're not, is that something that we want to do?
Yeah, I'd want some hot chocolate.
You got a big mug for Sparky.
too.
Walk around with.
Camel pack.
If you
Camel pack with a.
if we wanted to do a craft too, like we could have like the craft be, and like my church could provide all the hot chocolate if we wanted to do that, and then the craft could be at the Spark table. You know what I mean? We could figure out an easy way to do that. That's because what we did 2 years ago was awesome. So we would obviously like to help too. But yeah, I think the movie idea would be great if it's okay to do that.
Okay. Well, staff will get started on making some of those connections and seeing what we can start putting together, and we'll circulate some emails just so everybody kind of knows where we are on the communication side of things, and then as far as coordinating a craft or project or whatever, we'll get there.
Okay.
We will have another
Yep.
meeting, and then though it will be like a week before. So
Well, our
There's-
meeting is a
there's
week early because of Thanksgiving, so we will have an extra week.
Okay.
But still, it's pretty
Yeah.
close.
There's a key. There's a key individual you would need to speak with too. As I'm thinking back with the movies, if we were to set it up in the same area, which made sense, it's the the folks from southern states. It's really their property where we set up the screen. And the conversations I've had with them over the years, and you might have heard different ones, but the direct conversation I had with them is that, since we're putting some gear on their equipment, they've only asked that the town provide some sort of a insurance rider that covers them during that event for that night in case something happens to happen on their property.
Okay.
And if that's provided, then they'll likely be okay with things.
Good. Yeah, those are easy enough to put together. So
Where did the screen get set up?
We set it up, it's when we had some daylight, probably a couple hours of daylight left. We'd set up the screen, and as soon as it got dark enough to roll, we play the videos just constantly for hours until the last kid, left Santa's lap. And it's a long, somewhat cold night, but if you get a couple of few people kind of trading off and kind of monitoring things, it's actually pretty fun.
Where did you do it?
Where did we set it up? So if you're from
Adjacent to the.
if you're at the French Twist looking straight across to the post office, just to the right of that is the caboose where Santa would be. Just to the left of that caboose is where they set up the model trains. But far right, that building there, that storage building, I don't quite know what that concrete building is on the right-hand side. We'd set up the screen right in front of that. And you just got to coordinate with southern states, and they've been fine over the years, and they make sure that their workers are clear out by a certain time frame so we can have that space.
Billy, do you know if we need to get licensing to show another movie?
No, you don't need licensing for this.
Okay.
They're really old movies.
Okay. If they're public domain, we can show whatever we want.
Yeah, we've always understood that we're fine with what we show at Christmas time. And it used to, I don't know if this will happen again, but in years past there was, a band that would play, a band as in, a few instruments playing Christmas songs, and they would play for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We would, shut the movie down during that time frame. We just displayed some Christmas, winter scenes, whatever on the screen while they do that. And then they would take a break and we would show the movie for 20 or 30 minutes, get through Charlie Brown. They went back and forth all night long.
That would be awesome.
They weren't there for the last few years, but if there's somebody interested in doing that, it would really worked well. It was cool event.
That would be cool though.
It was like a brass band or something. Maybe it was the Westminster guy.
Sure was, yeah.
Do you want to see if you can find one?
I can contact the Westminster Municipal Band. That's what they are.
You're in the parade.
Yeah.
What about the high schoolers?
Or the high school. Yeah.
Do they usually participate in anything? Or something like that?
Can they participate on weekends? I think it's Sundays they can't do it.
I just remember there was like 800 people there, so we should make it as fun as and as big of an event as possible.
It's a big event.
Yeah, people are gonna come.
I mean, you need to be prepared.
And which I guess we'll figure out when it gets closer. But I remember we had to get access to one of the shops to get electricity for our table.
Oh, yeah.
But
I think that was Fred Gossage's
Fred.
building. I worked that out with him.
Easy to do. So, but that's all something we can figure out. But it sounds like we're all kind of good to do it, right?
Yeah, and I can set up the movie equipment and.
You break out a smaller screen?
Yeah, I was thinking the smaller screen because that bigger screen is not gonna.
Joe, for some reason, I'm thinking Santa was a friend of Anna Carter's. I might be.
Santa's a friend of all of us.
Well,
As long as you're good.
We're on the nice list, like most of us on this side.
Anna had a.
But we
I think that's where he came from.
know who to reach out to. Make the right connections. Yeah. Okay, good. Like I said, we'll
And-
work on that.
And Brian, I can definitely help you with the movie, and I've got pictures from past events that I'll, share with everybody and give them a better idea of what it looked like at that time.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. So that was everything we had on our agenda, other than town updates.
And sorry I wasn't as prepared on the trail question. They should be finishing up here the next few days. It probably will bleed into next week a little bit, but the linear trail work should be completed early next week. Other than that, we did have, I want to say, 2 days with the splash pad on before it got cold. We did not advertise it very much at all because we didn't want it to be crazy up there, but it did get used and it did work, and it's certainly going to be a popular amenity there at the park. So come Memorial Day next year, when we do the living kind of tour, it's going to be a thing. Other than that, the trick or treat on Main Street was a great event. Again, just for the public to hear. Sparky was a big hit. We gave out over 1,800 pieces of candy between the town table and the Spark table. So
Thanks again for buying the candy.
it was quite the event. Yeah, I think that's it.
Hey, what are the hours for trick or treating this Sunday?
6 to 8 p.m. with the porch light on.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Next time.
Okay, let's see, it's 7:28, I motion to adjourn the first meeting.
Second.
Those in favor?
Hi.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later.
Hold on, quick reminder, so the next park meeting is a week earlier than normal.
Yes, the
right?
Thursday before Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah.
It's like the 18th. That's when that is.
That'd be good. So we can give up.